All right, peace and blessings. It's March the 14th, the year 2018, Wednesday, and David Hinkson has been a busy man. I purchased and mailed David Hinkson Galileo Was Wrong, The Church Was Right, Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Robert Sungenis. And those books are incredibly detailed scientifically, backing up the position of geocentrism. And David, I don't think, had ever considered that before, and he's been reading the books. I think he's probably done with book 1, and he just recently received book 2, but he wrote a letter to the author, who I communicate with every now and then, and I have a great admiration for the work that Robert Sungenis has done in the area of geocentrism. So here's David Hinkson's letter to Robert Sungenis. Dear Robert, I have been reading the books that you provided me, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to read these books. So far, you have totally convinced me that there has been a conspiracy to keep the truth from us for a lot of years. What I would like to address are some concepts of physics that are talked about in your book and maybe get your opinion. In your book, you talk about dark matter, fabric of space, and zero-point energy. In 1993, I was able to get a disk that I had glued magnets on to actually levitate off of the table. Later, I went and witnessed a man from England named John Searle actually demonstrate that he could build an anti-gravity concept. See johnsearle.com. So I have studied the concepts that John put forward, but personally, I never agree with the concept that he was teaching, as it did not make any sense to me. In my opinion, I believe that when John rotates his outer ring of magnets, what he really is doing is creating a magnetic field within the dark matter that then reacts with the stationary magnet ring that he placed in the center area. I noticed, for instance, that many things that are not magnetic can react with a rotating magnetic field. For example, in the Ford Pinto speedometer, they have a magnet that is spinning inside an aluminum bell housing. It occurred to me that anytime you take a regular magnet and spin it, it can react with substances that are normally not magnetic, and thus they can become magnetic to a degree. Of course, some would say that it is the created eddy currents that are causing this overall reaction, but I noticed the stories about magnetic fog. It would seem that this so-called magnetic fog is created out in the Devil's Triangle, even when the temperatures are not conducive to this condition. And at the same time, they are saying that their compasses are spinning in a full circle. One thing is for sure, I did verify that this concept really works, and in fact, it would seem that we are able to lift about 400 pounds of dead weight for each 4 square inches of magnets that are placed on the outer magnetic rotor ring and the stationary inner magnetic stator. I think there has been a conspiracy to hide this information from us over the years, because to really understand this concept would allow mankind to fly cars in the air, just like you saw in the movie titles The Fifth Element. I do not think they want this concept to be real any more than they want you to prove that the Earth is in the center of the universe. There really are a lot of cover-ups, especially when it comes to new concepts. Stywad-unipole. I think that this overall concept would fall under what Mr. Tesla called his unipole field. A unipole field is a field that is created by placing many magnets together in such a way as to create a very large surface area that is all poled the same way. But when I glued my magnets on the aluminum disc using Bondo, I was really creating something new, as it was a unipole rotor, not just a unipole field. And it might have been the rotation that reacted with this so-called dark matter. Either way, I just want to share this with you and find out what you think about this. I went further in the past and actually drew some plans for my concept, and I labeled these pictures as STIWAD, S-T-I-W-A-D, static time internal warp drive. The STIWAD concept had Albert's time on a curve concept built into it, but of course I have now learned by reading your book that this concept might be totally wrong. But here is the point to my past logic. Albert had stated in the past his bogus concept that time slows down in the mass as the object gains speed, but if an object is accelerating, we would experience time on a curve that is not constant, and it would seem like a g-force. But on the other hand, a rotating disk using this same concept would maintain time on a curve internally in the mass simply due to the fact that the disk is physically rotating and maintaining its rotation speed. For example, if the outer edge of a helicopter blade is traveling at 100 miles per hour, the physical speed that the mass would be traveling at the center point of the blade could be, say, about 50 miles per hour. So in all reality, we have a static time internal warp, as the time would be on a curve in the mass between the hub and the outer edge of the blade. So if any of what Albert stated in the past could be true, then of course this concept of time maintained on a curve static in the spinning disk would also be true. Maybe it really does not matter as we think about all of this, as what maybe really should matter the most is that we maybe could create anti-gravity, and if we can, we need to make it happen. Then we could fly out and see for ourselves that the sun is moving around the earth. Galt, the Galt motor that I drew and we built, really has a standard AC magneto in the center as the heart of the device, but we don't have to prove that a magneto works because every Briggs & Stratton engine in the world uses a magneto. So there is really no real reason to argue or prove up on this theory. So in my YouTube video, See Galt Generator, you will notice that we are attempting to show is that the Galt unit violates the law of Lenz, as that is what is important in any magneto concept. As you probably know, the difference between a coil and a transformer, toroid, is that a transformer has a full circle of steel. And this full circle of steel concept allows the magnetic energy that is created by the primary coil to be reinstated back into said same originating coils, and this then allows the primary to just sit there and produce a 60 hertz hum. And this lockdown concept is called an R1 lock in the electronic industry. Now when you use the secondary coil, it cracks or destroys this R1 lock in a direct proportion, and this then causes the primary to now use the same amount of energy as the secondary. When Mr. Tesla first created the AC alternator, it used coils, not transformers, mounted in a circle, and it had coil rotating in the center area. The point now is that our Galt motor uses the transformer toroidal core concept along with the magneto concept instead of a coil. So in all reality, what we have now created and tested is the first AC transformer magneto, and what we are doing with this device is as follows. We plug the Galt coils, 8 coils. Galt only has output coils as there are no input coils, into the grid, and now using the R1 lock concept, and the stators can maintain alternating magnetic poles in the stators for free. Now for example, as the stator pole is south, it grabs the north nub of the rotor. I call this reluctance pull, and this reluctance pull the nub only up to top dead center. Then the amps now change in direction to the TDC, top dead center point, and now the stator pole is north, and it now pushes the north nub of the rotor reluctance push beyond TDC to finish the stroke. So what is actually happening here is that we now have the stator poles alternating and reacting with the permanent magnets in the rotor to create torque. Now the Galt is totally self-synchronizing as it feeds the grid while at the same time is creating horsepower. We have discovered on the bench that it is actually the reluctance push that is the new concept in this device. If you want to see a similar device, Google SRM, switch reluctance motors, and you will see many rotors with nubs on them. Our Galt looks like the SRM, except that it is geometrically superior. It is the stator's ability to push the nub on the final stroke that allows the Galt unit to make the torque and violate the law of Lenz. And it is the reluctance push that seems to be increased only when amps are being used or created, as you have to move an amp in order to get the magnetism. So overall, the more energy you create, the harder this reluctance push the harder this reluctance pushes to make even more torque. So in all reality, this Galt motor really does violate the law of Lenz. This even created an initial problem for us as we discovered that we had to actually short out the coils to get the most torque out of the rotor. But this was easy to solve, as we just add a circuit to the Galt coils, and this circuit shorts out the coils if there is now load being drawn from the unit. In summary here, we have discovered that there are 3 different types of rotor construction. I named them Type A, Type B, and Type C. When you look at the SRM, you are looking at Type A configuration. We discovered that we get a lot more torque out of the Galt motor when we use the Type C configuration. The Type C configuration consists of the concept where the nubs are all 100% off or 100% on. Note that Type A configuration has more shuffle, as one is just leaving TDC on one stator and is just arriving to TDC on a different stator. So, what I was hoping that you might do is take the time to study what we are doing, and if you feel that we are on the right track, I was hoping that you would endorse the concept for us as being sound. We could use this help, as you are totally respected in your field. Rudy has other articles that I have written if you would take the time to try to see if you think we are on the right track. If you would like to hear about some of my other inventions, I would take the time to explain them to you. For example, we have an electric jet engine that makes its own energy for free while it runs. To slow it down, you have to pulse the coils. I guess I might be a lot like you in one aspect, as I believe that everybody else thinks this is impossible. If you want me to be able to email you directly, please have Rudy email me your email address. Anyway, I love the 2 books that I got from you, and I will finish reading the second one this upcoming week. Your friend, Dave. So I'm going to convert this into a PDF file and upload it to David Hinkson's webpage on yearofjubilee.com. And don't forget about David's other website, iEnergySupply.com. iEnergySupply.com. And there's also another website called davidhinkson.info. Thank you for your time.